Welcome, everybody. This is our third session of UTOOLS. Today, we're going to be talking about interviews and the application process. We have Dr. Gibbs joining us today as a presenter. And this session is brought to you through a collaboration between Career Transitions Incorporated along with University of Michigan Dearborn, and we received some funding from the Michigan College Access Network to offer these sessions virtually. Something's wrong with my mouth today. So anyways, welcome. If you haven't already, tell us who you are. Just chat in the chat box, your name, first and last name, your email address, and also if you are an MYOI participant. And then the next thing I'd like to ask is if you haven't already, please put up if you can, you don't have to, but if you can, a background of your favorite sports team. So I have University of Michigan behind me, their basketball team. And if you are unable to put a background behind you, maybe you'd like to share with us what your team is. I don't know if Jaden or Soraya want to share with us what their favorite sports teams are, if they have one.
I don't have a favorite sports team. I'm not really into sports.
Okay, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. Alex, share with us while we're waiting on Jaden.
Right. So I'm not really a sports-oriented person. I'm not someone that really keeps up with sports, but my family does love the Detroit Tigers. And we have gone to the Detroit Tigers games a couple times, so that's why right behind me you can see it's the Detroit Tigers Stadium, which is a really cool place if you haven't been there.
Dr. Theta Gibbs Grey.
Okay, favorite sports team. So sports are exciting to me and I follow sports, but not regularly. So I'm going to have to say, okay. I have never been to a WNBA game. So I would love to support WNBA games. So I feel like if I knew more, maybe one of the teams would be one of my favorite teams. But so hopefully I'll have a favorite team. Because I was a Wolverine first, I'm going to say that I am a Wolverine and I support, yes, the Wolverines in basketball and football.
Okay, thank you. Miss Elliott?
So I'm not really into sports, honestly, but I have several MSU graduates and alumni, friends and family. So, hey, I go green.
Okay, all right. And then Jaden, what do you have behind you?
This is Brooklyn. The Brooklyn Nets.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I'm not okay. I'm not a fan of Brooklyn, but I just like all them players that you see. They're my favorite. So, yeah, I think that's my favorite team right now. I'm more of a football guy anyway. Yeah, so.
Okay.
But that team, I watch every single last one of their games.
You just got that picture straight off the internet a few minutes ago.
I did. That's what I was doing.
Just got traded to the Nets.
Jay said that he works very quickly and efficiently.
Okay. Did everybody have a chance to share?
I can share. Favorite sport, I don't have anything up in my background, but favorite sport is basketball. I played basketball in high school, and my favorite team is the Detroit Pistons. A lot of good memories growing up watching the Detroit Pistons, the bad boy era.
All right.
Wish I was there to see that.
Amazing time. Amazing time.
All right. If we can go ahead and get started with the presentation now.
Perfect, perfect. So good afternoon, good early evening, everyone. Again, my name is Dr. Gibbs Grey, Jaden, and
Yes.
Soraya.
Oh, my bad.
I'm excited to work with you today. So Jaden, Soraya, and we have another person who just joined us. And is it Yvonne or Ivan?
It's Yvonne. You said it right the first time.
Okay. Hi, Yvonne. How are you?
Hi, I'm good.
Okay. So Jaden, Yvonne, and Soraya, your voices are really going to be important today. So I'm one of those people who I only like to talk a little bit, and I like to hear your responses because your responses are going to make this much more exciting. Sound okay?
Yes.
Give me 1 second, and I'm going to share my screen. And can everybody see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, perfect. Okay. All right. So today we'll talk about a little bit about preparing for your success on the job market. And before we get started, Soraya shared a little bit with me already and shared that she is currently working at Burlington. Jaden and Yvonne, can you tell me, are you currently working, searching for a job? Where are you right now?
Searching.
Jaden searching? Okay, perfect.
I'm working. I work at Providence Hospital.
At Providence Hospital. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we have examples that are really going to be helpful as we move forward. So today is really going to be about helping us think about where we are, regardless of where we are right now, and to think about our futures in terms of our future job and career success. So I always like to start really with affirming each other because sometimes thinking about jobs and careers can seem really heavy, and it can seem like, you know, we have goals that we may want to achieve and they may be challenging or they may be easy, but it does require us to take the time to think about where we are, where we would like to be, and how we can get there. So always remember that wherever you are in the process, if you are currently seeking, if you currently have employment and would like to stay and move up in your current job or transition to another job and career, it's always important for us to tap into our confidence and believe that we're worthy of experiencing job and career success. You know, sometimes there can be so much doubt associated with, can I do this? When will this come to me? What type of job will I like? How will I be happy? Will I make enough money to do the things that I want to do? That there are often so many questions, but to always make sure to be rooted in confidence and a belief that with preparation, you will be able to secure the types of jobs and experience the career success that we each deserve. Okay, so that's our starting point for today. So as we think about this mental preparation, so again, reminding ourselves that we're deserving of a job and career that's fulfilling of our needs, right? So temporarily, we may have a job that may fulfill some of our needs or may not, but that at some point in our trajectory that we are deserving of feeling fulfilled in many ways in our jobs. And then responding to doubt. So if doubt arises, for us to be sure that we have strategies to name our doubt and to address it so it doesn't influence our actions. Positive and affirming mantras help, and we'll talk about that a little bit later as we have some examples that will help each other through. And always remember, if you're nervous during the application and interview process, remember to acknowledge that you're prepared, that you've taken the steps that you need to be successful. So always come back to what you know is the truth. If you're nervous, if you're doubting, come back to your truth. I'm worthy of this job. I'm prepared. I will be successful. All of those things are always useful to sort of drown out the doubt, as I like to say. Okay, so let's think about the first part and we'll move through this a little bit quickly. But I want to hear from Jaden, Yvonne, and Soraya. When you have applied to jobs in the past, what was your job application process like? Did you apply in person? Did you apply online? So if someone can unmute and walk us through, what was your job application process like?
It was actually really easy. They had in-person interviews and I just went.
Okay, so you applied and interviewed all at the same time?
Yes.
Okay, now, and about how long did it take you to fill out the application?
About 10 minutes.
Okay, was it a paper application or computer-based application?
It was computer-based.
Okay, got it. Okay, so it was very streamlined. It all happened very quickly for you, which is great. Yvonne, how about for you, for your job, your current position at Providence, what was your application process like?
So at first I filled out the application online because you can only fill out the application online. But I didn't hear back. Like 2 weeks had went by and I didn't hear back. So I went up there to talk to the supervisor. And then from there on, my application was processed.
Nice. Okay, your example is actually, Yvonne, a great example of saying that you didn't hear back. 2 weeks went by and you felt like by then you should hear back. So you went back again to follow up, and that demonstrated your initiative. It demonstrated to them that you were really committed and interested in the job and that you have great follow-through skills. So which is really good that you did that, and shortly thereafter you secured your job. Okay, so now it is important. These examples are helpful because we have examples of applications that happen on the spot along with the interview. Some positions still have paper applications, so we might date ourselves, but for many of us on the call, when we had some of our first jobs, we actually would have to go in to that particular place and ask for a paper application and complete it. So some of my older jobs at a movie theater and at a Hallmark, I physically had to go in and ask for the application, complete it, and bring it back. And then there was a call back for interviews. So now because of technology, things have changed that we're completing applications online and in person. Many of us have gone through this process, and this may be repeating what you already know, but to just remind us as we're thinking about moving forward. And Jaden, for you and each of us who may be thinking about transitioning into new jobs and careers, to always make sure that we set aside time, that we try not to multitask and just focus on your application. So not to rush, but to give ourselves time to fully pay attention to the application, because sometimes if applications are incomplete or if responses aren't that clear, employers may automatically push an application to the side. But if the application demonstrates that we took our time, all of our responses were thoughtful, that makes a huge difference in how the application, our application is evaluated. And then responding thoughtfully and thoroughly to any short answer questions. So often, if the process is first that your application is reviewed, they're reading what you say to any short answer questions. So you want to make sure that we're answering the questions. And if you're completing an online application, always make sure that you're saving your answers in another document. Because I've heard on many occasions, many people go to complete job applications online and their computer may crash or something happens with the system when they go to submit. But if you've just copied and pasted all of your responses already, it won't take as much time as it did the first time if you go and you complete the application. So always save your information. And if you can, when you submit paper applications, make a copy for yourself, right? So in case the employer may say, oh, I can't find your application, I think we misplaced it. So Yvonne, in your case, if you had gone back to Providence and they said, oh, we remember that you completed your application, but we misplaced it. If you had a copy already, then you could just be prepared to say, okay, I have a copy, here you go, right? So always think ahead and be proactive and keep records of everything that you can. And just make sure this number 3 connects to number 1. Is for us to take time and triple check our applications for any errors before we submit it. So I want to stop there and see if there are any questions or comments about making sure that we're successful about the application process before I move on to the next slide. So I'm going to put a link to a Padlet in our chat. So give me just a second, but I want to make sure that we all have these questions in our minds. So what are our career goals? All of us, even though we're at different stages of our jobs and careers, we have career goals, right? So I want us each to think about, in 2 years or 5 years, where would you like to see yourself in terms of your career? What type of career or job would you like to have? And why is this future career important to you? How ready are you for this career? Are you currently getting the skills that you need for this career, or do you need to develop these skills? And if you need to develop these skills, how can you begin to prepare yourself with the skills for your dream career? Okay, here we go. All right. Okay. So everybody, if you click on that link, so see what I did is there's this pink plus or pencil at the bottom. Everybody click on that and you can actually start to make your post. So I clicked on it, and you know that this post is Dr. Gibbs Grey. This is me. Okay, so put your name at the top where it says title. When you click at the bottom, where right here at the bottom right. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Yep. So you can just click a note, and that's your note, and we'll all be able to share and see some of what we're typing. Okay, perfect. Okay, let's take about 2 minutes or so, and let's respond to the first question. So in 2 years or in 5 years, so 2 years would put us at 2023. Okay, 5 years will put us at 2026. And you could choose. 2 years maybe if you want an immediate change, or 5 years could be if something is more long-term and you need a little bit more time. So just write in your note, what type of job or career would you like to have, and put the year that you would like to have it. Okay, and Joy and Alexandra, if you could help me. So I'll stay on this screen. If Yvonne or Soraya or anyone else has posted in the chat before I move on, if you could let me know. So I'll start with Jaden, and then we'll keep going across our screen. But do let me know if I've missed someone, since I'm not able to toggle back and forth to the chat from here. Okay, thank you. Okay, Jaden, let's start with you, if you're okay for us to start with you.
Of course.
Okay, very awesome that you would like to own a business. So tell us more. What makes you want to own a business, and what type of business?
What makes me want to own a business is that, some fact of, I've never really been good. Like, well, I did have a job when I was younger, but they were summer jobs, And I don't think I really did good with those. I don't like being bossed around and being told what to do. And then you wasn't getting, I want to make my own pay. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's just, that's the main reason why I want to. And then, what type of business? I don't know. I want to get into a lot of stuff. Like what my mom was telling me about, like agriculture and stuff like that. Like I want to make, especially in Detroit, I want to have a whole bunch of farms and stuff like that. Like I want to, what's something else I said I wanted to do? It's a lot of other stuff. I'm on the spotlight right now, so it's hard to think of it, but I know that's the main thing. Yeah.
Jaden, this is good. No, we welcome you talking through, and please take the spotlight and own it. What you just said was very clear, very concise. I understand very directly what you just said, that you would like to be your own boss, that you feel like it is easier to do that sometimes is very difficult, especially when you have to think about the type of pay that you're receiving, and you are perhaps interested in agriculture, which might involve urban farms. Very clear and concise. Thank you, Jaden. Okay, Yvonne, Can you walk us through a little bit more what you have written? Tell us a little bit more about your career goals and why. Give us some more background.
Okay, so I'm actually starting on like my career goals right now, just because I kind of age out this year. And so with that being said, I'm sorry, I'm trying to multitask. Hold on. So with that being said, my business is actually based around, it's called Hearts for the Arts. It's a performing arts company. It's based in 2 sections. So the first section is for like music production, songwriting, and artist development, artist management. That's stuff that I want to go into as like my entire career. And then the other section of it is dedicated to theater arts. So I'm putting together, I have a creative team, and we are actually getting ready to do our very first stage musical that's supposed to open up in June of 2023. So we're working through the process of that, getting the revenue, getting the contacts and all that, networking for all that stuff now.
Nice. Okay, Yvonne, thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so for you, the arts is where your heart is, and that you've already started to engage in many important things, so that you have engaged in production of your own stage musical, and that you started to gather revenue around it. Okay, and you also said that by then you will also have been a college graduate with an associate's degree. So there are many things that are helping you along the way, and you also have a clear plan. Thank you. Okay, is it Tavia or Tavia?
It's Tavia.
Okay, Tavia, can you walk us through, because you already, you are firm in your career right now, and
I am.
Yep, this is another part of your career. So your example would be great in terms of, can you walk us through how you came to the career that you're in right now, and that you have even more career goals moving forward? Can you walk us through a little bit?
Sure, of course. I have been with the state since 2012. I was foster care specialist along with CPS, so I've done both. Before coming to this position, I was a POS monitor, and POS monitor from DHS perspective is you're pretty much the liaison between the private agency and DHS. So I was responsible for several cases, which allowed me to interact with several different agencies. And during that time, I was assisting many private agency foster care specialists along with their supervisors in getting whatever was needed or processed, or just helping them to transition or understand what was needed from DHS to, say, for example, receive payment or court orders for the court, especially with COVID, things changing. So whatever they would need to complete services for their youth or their cases or their parents, I was that liaison. So to me, that was really a next step in being a supervisor. However, this position came available, and I love working with youth. I enjoy helping others just to overcome, to another role of that mediator, being that transition a lot. That's what we do here. I mean, I do MYOY as well as YIT. However, growing and maturing myself, I really think that my next goal is helping new workers transition like I did in POS, but not for POS, for the state of Michigan. So that's where I want to go. But I want to stay here and, to continue, because a lot of changes is coming with YIT, not necessarily MYOY, but YIT. As a transition. So it's so many things you can do working for the state, but I really love helping the youth to transition and overcome whatever they've had to experience. And I would like to take that on to helping our new workers to be able to help with their cases and their youth and their families, you know, in whatever process they have to overcome. So
perfect. Okay, thank you. We have a couple more examples, but we'll move on and I'll come back to those examples. So I'll just unmute. Joy or Alexandra, are there any responses in the chat?
Yes. Soraya says that she would like to be a travel nurse.
Okay, Soraya, you would like to be a travel nurse. Okay, Soraya, I'm going to come back to you because Alexandra also has aspirations of becoming a nurse too. I'm going to come back to both of you in our additional questions that we have moving forward. Okay. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to come back as we transition. So we just started to think about our, you know, where we see ourselves, where we want to be in the next few years, right? So we want to think about when we're engaging with people through the application and interview process, what does that look like for us? So let me pull back up our PowerPoint. So as we transition from thinking about the questions that we just answered, we'll move forward to thinking about being clear about our strengths as they're connected to our specific career goals. So I want us to, we can unmute, we don't have to write this one in the chat, but it's important for us to be clear about our general and specific strengths. And many of us, when we shared out, we started to talk about our strengths. So Yvonne mentioned that she has started to actually write down her career goals. And writing down your career goals, sometimes we think it's just, oh, well, we'll write down what I want to do in 2 to 5 years, which we just did. But we know that in talking through it is so much more, that we're thinking about what we want to do, why we want to do it, how we can get there, any challenges, any support that we need. So I want us to take a minute or so, and Soraya, if it's okay, when we start to share, Soraya and Alexandra, if you can share out, this would be really helpful for this part of the exercise. So if we could each, and you can keep writing it in your Padlet, okay? So if you still have the link to the Padlet, while I'm not projecting the Padlet, you can still write inside of your note, or you can make a new one. Right? You can make new ones. We can have as many notes as possible, or you can continue to add where you were typing. So I want you to just think about and write down 3 strengths that you have that will be useful at any job. And just one word. So I am reliable, innovative, creative, organized, personable, supportive. It may be 2 words, a team leader, whatever it is. Try to come up with 3 adjectives or 3 strengths that you have that will be useful wherever you worked. And then maybe write down 1 or 2 that are specific to your type of job, right? So I imagine that for Jaden and thinking about going into agriculture, that a specific strength related to farming is going to be something related to that, right? Or there are specific skills related to nursing, like we have to know how to provide certain types of care in terms of maybe administering medicine, administering shots, being able to help patients who perhaps cannot walk on their own. Like these are specific strengths in training. Okay, so then we're going to practice talking about them in a second. So just take a couple of minutes, think about again and write down general strengths useful at any job, and then specific strengths that are useful for a specific job or career. Alexandra, are you there?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Okay, Alexandra, can you walk us through a couple of examples of your strengths that maybe one that's general and one that's specific?
So one general one is I'm team oriented. I'm comfortable working in large groups. I'm not really like a work independently type of person. I like being around people and hearing what everyone else has to say and like everyone else's opinions. And then one that's general, well, one that's specific, I guess I'm like, I'm comfortable working with like youth, working with kids and all that. You know, I'm very patient with kids, so it's just like I feel like that would be very helpful if I became a nurse. You know, like you don't want like a scary looking nurse. You want someone that's fun, that's like knows how to interact with kids and all that.
Perfect. Thank you. Perfect. Okay, and I know I'm putting you on the spot, so I'll talk a little bit to give you some lead time. You said that you are patient with young people, and that is really important. Your patience in general to work in a position like this and to also work in nursing. But can you give just a quick example of if an employer said, okay, that's great. Can you give an example that demonstrates how you were patient with a young person without giving any names, or it doesn't have to be a long detail, but just a very quick response that says, this is an example?
I guess because I do like science programs with middle schoolers. So there are times when we would kind of go through like experiments with them. And, you know, obviously there's always going to be those one or two students that either weren't paying attention or just still are not really entirely sure of what's going on. So usually I still always like step back and then walk them through it over and over again until like I know that they're 100% good with it. I try not to just move on without them. I focus on the, like, even if it's just one student, I'll like stop and like focus on that student, make sure that they're good, and then I'll keep going.
Okay, perfect. Concise example, very concise example. We're talking about how you don't need to move on very quickly. And then if someone asked you to relate it to nursing, you could and say that patients often don't want you to move on very quickly. They want you to make sure that they're okay. Yes, very concise. You did not tell a long drawn out story. You told a very specific story, which is going to be helpful as we come back to some of these other examples. So for each of us on the call, we may love to talk and we may feel like, okay, I need to tell them all the things about this one particular thing. But actually, what we need to think about is specificity. How do I acknowledge this example, acknowledge my strength, give an example of how it's a strength and how it will be useful? And I'm going to pause here. Does anyone else want to share? So Yvonne or Jaden, or Soraya, do you want to share an example of a strength that you have and how you know that this is a strength?
I don't know if I'm using this word right, but I think I'm too scrupulous to have a failed business. Like I'm too paranoid to be wrong or mess up, you know? And I think with that type of mindset, I don't think I'd ever fail. I want to be perfectionist. Of course, I'm not a perfectionist, but I strive to be great. And yeah, I think that'll help my business grow. Or that's why I think I'll be successful. That's why I think so.
Okay, Jaden, I understood what you said very clearly. So if I were to assess what you just described, I would say that you have strong initiative, that you are very ambitious.
That was another one of my words.
Yes, okay. That you are very confident.
Yeah.
And all of these things are really important, especially in owning and maintaining. So you also talked about something that you have skills to help you sustain a business, right? Because you didn't say, I want to start it. What did you say? I want to maintain its success. I don't want it to fail. So that's another example of your drive, of your initiative, and of your follow through. So there's so many adjectives that I thought about just from your description. So thank you. Okay, so we'll keep going as we think about what does it mean to prepare for a successful interview? And interviews can look very different, right? So we have some examples of on-the-spot interviews, of you having to prepare for an interview and to come back later. So we'll think about what are some of the key things that we need to think about, especially in this digital age. And if we're applying for jobs during COVID, or if we're applying to jobs where perhaps there may not be an actual in-person job interview process. One of the biggest things is one of the best forms of advice for securing our jobs and careers is taking notes, always researching the company or organization that we work for. So Jaden, for you, researching some urban farms that already exist and writing down some examples of their mission and vision statement. So those of us interested in nursing or being playwrights or having production companies is, what is happening with other production companies? What are they? How do they represent themselves? What are their mission, their vision, and their values? How can we learn more about them so we're knowledgeable when we go to the interview? Ask people you know if applicable about the organization. Research doesn't just involve us looking online, but asking other people what their experience is with the organization if they know anything. And again, the last point is synthesizing all those 2 points is take a few notes down in advance. So before you go to an organization, know more about them. So if they ask questions, you can demonstrate that you know about them. And even if they don't, you can take initiative and say, actually, I took some initiative and I researched what Burlington's core values are. And those align with my core values. That's really important. So always do that, regardless of the type of job that you're applying for. So then what makes you stand out? What makes you ready for the job? As we started to model, always talk about what makes you uniquely qualified. So right now, none of us are applying for a job in this moment, but we always need to prepare ourselves and hype ourselves up. What makes me qualified? What makes me stand out? We just gave some examples. So this is job preparation for each of us, giving examples of how we work well with a team or work well with others. Give an example of how you can be a leader, right? So Alexandra just gave us an example of how she's patient and she knows how to work with young people. But also, can we each give examples, and we should each be able to. Can we give an example of how we took initiative either at home or in a job or at school? These examples are relevant. Jaden, you were saying you were thinking about applying for jobs too, but you have a skill set that you developed from being at home in your community or being in school. Tapping into these examples are going to be really helpful for you too, right? And always be ready to give an example. Always be ready to say, this example demonstrates how I work through challenges and how I can solve problems. And again, draw on both your real life experience from other jobs and your day-to-day life, because your day-to-day life, you're building skills every day, even outside of a formal job or career that you have. Make those skills work for you and translate them into when you think about your career goals and career preparation. So I feel like there's an art to answering and representing your strengths verbally. I mean, you can just nod. Do any of us know somebody who tells great stories, but they take a long time to tell the story? Can you unmute and say yes if you know somebody who takes a long time to tell a story?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Do you know people who tell a story and you like, okay, but what about this? What, they didn't tell enough, and you consistently asking them questions? Anybody know somebody like that too?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
That's worse to me.
Yeah. Does anybody know somebody that you like, man, if I need the information, I need so-and-so to tell me, because they're going to tell it very clearly and quickly, because we only have a few minutes. Do we know people like that too?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. We need to be those people in answering and representing ourselves in an interview. Sometimes we think, if I just talk long, I'll be able to tell them more. Actually, no, length doesn't really equate to you being very thoughtful and efficient. We always want to be concise. So each of you today have given concise answers. We want to make sure that they're concise, that we don't unnecessarily repeat ourselves. So here's, I want somebody to actually ask me a question. Jaden, I'm working for you. I am working for your urban farm. Okay, you have started an urban farm. And the question that you are asking me is, what makes you qualified for this position? Got it?
Okay.
This is your urban farm. So you're saying, okay, so again, my name is Dr. Gibbs Grey. So in just a few seconds, you can say, hello, Dr. Gibbs Grey. Thank you for coming to the interview. Can you tell me what makes you qualified for this position? Got it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I am ready when you are.
Okay. Hello, Miss Dr. Gibbs Grey. Did I say it right?
You did.
Dang, what else was I supposed to say after that? I forgot.
Tell me what makes you qualified to work, work on my urban farm.
Yeah, tell me what makes you, qualified to work on my urban farm.
Okay, so I'm very efficient. I am I'm very committed to working in a team. I really appreciate urban farms and the access that they provide for members of the community. So let's just pause. Mm-hmm. What did I do? Did I answer very quickly?
Yeah.
Did I have kind of a lot of ums? Did I have to stop and think?
Kind of though. I mean, not really.
Can you ask me the question again? So ask me, what makes you uniquely qualified for this position?
What makes you uniquely qualified for this position?
Okay, thank you for that question. So there are 3 things that make me uniquely qualified for this position. One is that I'm very committed to increasing access to food in urban spaces. 2, I am very team oriented. So it requires that we work together in teams on the urban farm. And there are several examples that I have, and I'll give them to you. Okay, was that better? Was number 2 better?
Yeah, that was better.
Did I pause?
No, not really. You knew what you were gonna say.
Well, I paused a little bit and I said, here are 3 reasons.
That's a pause?
Yep, and in pausing, I allowed myself to think about the 3 answers, to answer concisely, as opposed to not thinking, right? And running off the example, right?
I thought when you say pause, I thought you mean and then you wait for like 6 seconds and then you talk. Because I thought that's just natural. Like people just naturally just break when they talk. That's what
Actually, no. A lot of times in interviews, people sometimes are nervous and they immediately feel like they immediately have to answer the question. Mm-hmm. So most often in most interviews, people actually don't take the time to pause. So pausing is to just, you ask the question and I say, few seconds, and then I answer the question. That's the because it gives myself time to think and maybe even write down a few of my answers. Mm-hmm. Okay, and this is an art, because we all said we know people who take a long time to tell us a story, who don't tell us enough details. There's a sweet spot, and we want to make sure that we master this. So this is a response. I'll actually give you all the PowerPoint. This is another example of what I just said. Like, I'm the best candidate for 2 reasons or 3 reasons. Knowing that from what we said, like coming up with those stock examples is going to help you to always be prepared. And during the interview, so really here, I just want to say it's always important for us to be comfortable and wear professional attire. So we may or may not wear something that looks like the person in this slide. It may be that you have on a blouse or a sweater and not a suit. Always be comfortable and know what's appropriate for your job. Don't dress like anybody else, but be yourself. Always have a notepad or folder, something to take notes on. Pause before you respond to questions. And sometimes if you didn't hear the question, Jaden, you did this, to say, thank you. Can you repeat the question again? It's okay to ask to repeat. And for Zoom, same thing. Make sure your background is clear. Make sure your technology works so that you're prepared and not anxious for the interview. And just how to recover if you feel like you messed up. Sometimes in interviews, we might be nervous, but make sure you never say, I'm so nervous, to the people who are interviewing you. Make sure, again, you engage in that self-talk and remind yourself why you're worthy of being there. And perhaps, what if I bombed an answer? Like, so make sure that we don't say that we bombed. Like, don't say, you know what, I know I really bombed that answer. That was a horrible answer. But what you could do is come back and say, actually, can I go back and clarify and add more to the first question that you asked me? There's a way to do the same thing, but to do it more confidently. You always want to demonstrate your confidence. And the last one is always take a few seconds to pause. Never rush through your answers or never immediately respond. Give yourself a few seconds. And follow up and reach out. Employers always remember when applicants take the time to reach out. It was Yvonne or Samira who followed up in person? Who followed up in person?
It was me.
Oh, it was Yvonne?
Yes.
Okay, yep. So Yvonne gave us an example of following through in person. So you always want to make sure that you follow up via email, phone call, or in person if it's relevant. And then as you're preparing for jobs and careers, reach out to people. So here's an example of an email that if I were hiring somebody, this email, right, and maybe the evening after the interview or the next day is always important. So I put an example as if Mr. Perry Boyd, who's over the University of Michigan, part of UTOOLS and Gear Up. So I just used him as an example. So let's say I just had an interview with him this morning. So this evening, I would send him an email and say, "Dear Mr. Boyd, thank you for the opportunity to interview with the U of M Dearborn Gear Up program. It was a pleasure meeting you and talking with your team members. I'm excited at the possibility of joining your team. Thank you again for your time, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Best," and then my name. Can someone unmute and say, how would you feel if you owned the company and someone that you interviewed sent you this follow-up email? What would you think about that person?
I would think that they're serious about getting the job.
Yes. Joy, thank you. It demonstrates an added layer of seriousness that they took the initiative. Anybody else? What else does it demonstrate in addition to what Joy just said about it demonstrates that I'm serious? What else does it tell you about me?
I think it demonstrates persistence.
Hannah, yes, it does. Yes, persistence is really important. It says, I'm not going to give up and let things end. I'm following up, I'm persistent. And perhaps, Hannah, if you were employing me, you might say, oh, Dr. Gibbs Grey is persistent. I need her to be persistent and follow through on the job. So I'm excited to hire her, right? Anybody else? These are great. Serious, persistent, anything else?
Determination.
Determination. Yes, 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 yes. And Hannah, was there anything else that you wanted to share too? Because I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to ask you, but in terms of where you are currently, or if you want to share with us a future career goal that you have, Hannah.
As far as career goals are concerned, I haven't figured that all out yet.
Okay.
But it's a work in progress.
Okay. Do you mind sharing us some of the examples? Like, do you have, like, there are 5 things that I could do, I'm not exactly sure. Do you mind sharing with us some of those things? Because that often means that you are a multi-talented person trying to figure out which direction you're going to go into.
Well, I thought about a couple attributes that I have. Like, I like sports. At one point, I wanted to do physical trainer.
Nice. Okay. Okay.
And
yeah.
I'm good with health. I'm good with the whole health food, because I know that you don't need just exercise. You also need the food as well as mental health.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about being a therapist as well, because I can't just do the exercise in order to get that position. I also have to do the mental health, the emotional health. So also probably going into like something like therapy first. So getting that degree first, moving on, going to the exercise certification. And it also takes people, talking to people as well. You have to be able to talk to people.
Right, right. Yeah, Hannah, these are great examples. Thank you for sharing. So yes, you're thinking about the health field and you have many different, I love how you said, I thought about my strengths, my skills, and what I want to do. Perfect. You shared it very clearly. So thank you for that. So we are at our time. What I want to do is to just say that we each, all of us on the call and not on the call, wish you much success as you prepare for, you land and thrive in your future jobs and careers. You know, always believe in your worthiness and believe that the things that you want to be are possible. It's just making sure that we reach out to the people who can support us and that we have a success team. We all need a success team of people who can encourage us and help us out. So thank you all for participating. You were each awesome in terms of sharing your career goals and your experiences. I really appreciate you. I hope this was beneficial to you. And Kylisha, I also see you. Oh, and Briette, I see a few other people too. So thank you each for joining here. I'm not sure if we need to stop and transition here, but I just want to say, if we didn't hear your voices, thank you for sharing and for being here.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Dr. Theda Gibbs Grey. Before people leave the call, we have a couple of announcements. The first thing is that I do know that there were some people that joined us midway. I tried to message you separately or privately. Please go ahead and send us your full name and your email address so that we can record that you participated today. Okay, so our next session is next week on Tuesday, same time, 5 o'clock. I believe that session is on taxes, how to prepare your taxes. So if you haven't done your taxes yet, or if you're interested in helping others do taxes, please come back and participate in next week's session. You can follow us on Facebook or Instagram. You can see the slide up. Any session that you've missed, we record, and so you're able to access that from Alex, how are they able from the YouTube channel? Thank you.
So our YouTube channel, it's okay. Our YouTube channel is UMD Trio Programs. We do have we sent out the link to the playlist? If not, it's fine. You can find the videos onto the YouTube channel, and in the description of every video, there is a link to a survey. If you can go into it and fill it out after you're done watching it, that would be great. And then, yeah, once again, we have our Facebook, Instagram, and our website on the UM Dearborn website.
One other thing, we did mention at the very beginning of the session that we are keeping track of who participates, because we are providing incentives or small gifts to people who prizes to people who participate, and people who participate the most. So we want to make sure that you let us know when you do participate. If you do watch a pre-recorded video on the
YouTube channel,
you can, they have to subscribe, correct? Yes.
Yeah. So how it works is because we can't really keep track of like who viewed the video, because everyone has like different accounts for YouTube. If you fill out the survey that's in the description, that will let us know that you watched the video, and that will count as participation.
And I'll transition out. I did put the slides in the chat for anyone who wants to download them. So thank you, everyone, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
You too.